Senegal. Quite diverse. Yeah, so it's good to see you all. I can see from Kenya, Sel is joining us from Kenya, from Nepal, Ahmed from Kenya. So feel welcome. And continue in the box from Kenya, Ayanda, Zimbabwe, South Africa. It's a pleasure. In diversity of this session, who requires that we acknowledge your presence once again. So welcome again to the session, and thank you very much for the introduction that is ongoing on the chat box. I can see the diversity and appreciate people joining us from within every corner of the African continent and even beyond. I think it's a testament that we are believers in democracy, we are believers in youth engagement, and we look forward to a meaningful youth participation. So we are amazed and indeed honored. And so noting that there is diversity in the nature of the participants that we have today in this session, and that in order to ensure that the session runs effectively and efficiently, please take note of the following announcement that I am going to make on behalf of the team. So the session today is translated in English and French. So we have a privilege of everyone participating in either language. The button, go to the button and search the interpretation button and click the language that you prefer, that you'd want to participate on or follow the nations and follow the session today of your preferences. So either English or French. After you have clicked those buttons and you are logged into the translation room, please show us by a thumbs up in the reaction button. So we will, by your thumbs up, we will either know that you're successfully lodged or you're not lodged successfully in the translation rooms. Additionally, if you require support, our tech team is on standby and therefore will help you, with any support that you'd require to participate. Also, kindly ensure that your microphone remains mute during the sessions. Why is this important? So that we will not ensure that you interrupt the rest of those who are joining. But that does not mean you don't participate. The comment section is open, and on the chat box, you would continue, interacting on the chat box, so that you do not feel that, it is not only through, your audio or through your mic, but continue interacting, on the chat box. So colleagues, it is quite interesting that even as we continue to interact, as we continue to lodge ourselves in the translation room and continue to introduce ourselves, we would love you to kick us off with a heart game, a heart game, in which at this moment, I would require you to wear the hat of your president. Quite a huge responsibility that in the moment we are assigning you. Just your president for a day of your country. And while being the president and assuming that you're the president of your country, we would love you to identify the issue that you think you'd prioritize as a president of your country. And here are 4 issues that we think, or we would have come up, that you would help us to prioritize as a leader. If you think that you want to, identify to prioritize social issue, for example, an issue around education, gender, equality, or health. The other issue that we would maybe ask you to prioritize, probably of your preferences, is an environment issue. Maybe matters of climate change in your country, pollution that is ongoing in your country, that is an environment issue that you can prioritize. Or rather, if you think is an economic issue that is bedeviling your country as a president, maybe looking at unemployment, inflation, or even youth enterprises, you would identify that as an economic issue. But rather still, there are others who, there are political issues as well. If you think corruption is your issue in your country, and you don't want to deal with it. Democracy, opening up a leadership space. So in these four particular issues that I've mentioned, for example, social issue, environment issue, economic issue, a pollution issue. So here today, these issues are represented by a hat. You know the hat, what the hat is. And the hat means it is in different color. So for those who would want to identify with social issue, want to prioritize social issue, you would go to the reaction button, identify a blue hat. You'll click a blue hat to symbolize that you are prioritizing a what? A social issue, education, gender, equality. And while you click at a blue hat, you'd also tell us why you'd want to prioritize this issue. For those who say environment is an issue, go to the reaction button, click a green hat. And after clicking a green hat, you'd come to the comment section and tell us why you think, as a president, you'd prioritize an environment issue. For those who think it's an economic issue, go to the reaction button, click a yellow hat, and after clicking that, tell us why you think economic issue is an important priority to you. And for those who think politics, is an issue, tackling corruption, democracy, leadership, please go to the reaction button, press a red hat, and come to the section and tell us why you think is a priority issue. So drop your comments, drop your reaction, and tell us why you think as a president. Let's hear your presidential priorities in the meantime as we go by. I hope we all had what the priorities are. Yes, I can see. If I was a president, of course, I would prioritize gender equality. And you've clicked, a red hat. That is a political issue. A blue hat. And why do you think politics, and political stability will be a priority? Good. Environment issue will be a priority. Just go and click the hat where represent your issue. Like I've said, green represent a social issue. A green hat represent an environmental issue, sorry. Blue hat represent a social issue. A yellow one is an economic issue. A red hat is a political issue. And so tell us why you think they're of a priority to you. And colleagues, as you do that, I can see a lot of reaction as we do that. Interesting observation, interesting reaction. So this particular leadership labs day is held at a very critical conjuncture, critical time. We have previously held leadership labs, but this one is a youth power that is rewriting our democratic future is coming at a very distinct time, and I'll tell you why. The first issue that makes it so unique is the youth factor. For example, young people have been misrepresented in the African continent, yet the statistics has it that over 60% of the population of Africa are the young people under the age of 20, making it one of the youngest, we are the youngest continent indeed. And the Mo Ibrahim Foundation further says that the foundation identify that a third of the population right now is between 15 to 34. Even if that, Africa remains one of the most underrepresented, young people underrepresented in this continent. Number two, why we think this is a unique issue is because of the emerging factor, of the shrinking civic space in the continent. All of you have seen that there is protest, there is conflict, young people demanding the space. And after the governments have responded with different reactions. But even as that is happening, young people are creative, innovative spaces and amazing spaces. So we'll also have an opportunity to hear some of those particular initiatives that are being made, with different youth initiatives in the continent. The third factor that makes this unique is the upcoming elections. So 2025 is very unique in Africa because we were having 5 elections, making a quarter of the continent of the election. So the question is, do young people still have, do they have an influence with regards to the election? Do they participate meaningfully in the elections of Africa? So it is our distinct pleasure our distinct observation that today in this leadership, we in this leadership lab, we purpose to identify and share the best practices of the role young people have been playing in the electoral processes. Additionally, the second objective today is to co-create, around recommendation to strengthen the youth engagement, like for example, using AI and discussing on the policy framework that will regard youth inclusivity in the democratic processes. But before we go to that, I think it could be quite important to get a motivational, speech to jump starters. So before we proceed, it is my pleasure, to invite Natalie Agboeze, a strategy partnership director at Restless Development, for the opening remarks and to give us an overview of what Restless Development does and what Youth Collective and Democracy Moves have been doing around this particular topic today. Over to you, Natalie.
Thank you so much, Daniel. And I won't keep you too long because I want to get you into the exciting discussions. As you've said, Daniel, there's so much to talk about. But I'm Natalie, and I'm delighted just to give a really quick overview of Restless Development and the work that we're doing to support young people around the world to drive the type of change that we've seen in those comments here today. And we're talking about our hearts and our coloured heart, but at the heart of everything we do at Restless Development is youth power. We're a non-profit global agency that focuses on the collective power of young leaders. And we have done this since 1985. So nearly 40 years now. And in that time, we've reached over 10 million young people and nurtured their leadership, connecting them with resources and supporting them to solve some of the world's most pressing challenges. This could be in the areas of voice and democracy, which I think is something that we here are all passionate about, or climate justice, education, livelihoods, and also reproductive justice. So every year we train and support and mentor young people, and I'm really proud to say that the world is recognizing the leadership and innovation of young people all the time. But we fight and continue to do more of that. And part of our work, a key part of this, is working via the Youth Collective. This is a growing global network that now has over 5,200 youth-led organizations as members across more than 167 countries. And through the Youth Collective, we are really helping to strengthen youth civil society and shift power directly into the hands of young leaders, as well as supporting thriving movements like the Democracy Moves network, to give bigger platforms and greater spaces to meet and discuss and share. So through the Youth Collective, we can offer a few things to our members, including featuring on the directory so that organizations and young people can be visible and they're enabled to connect with others. We offer funding opportunities, and we regularly put together a newsletter that runs through funding updates and access to live grants and donor calls. And we're proud to say that we love hearing when members of the Youth Collective have applied through those links and secured funding. We put on events like this one today, the Leadership Lab that we're having now, and we do other events like the Donor Dialogue series, where we bring together funders and young people to really discuss how we can improve access to funding and making funding more equal to everyone. The collective offers a chance for networking and collaboration and connecting people through our Facebook group, our events, our social media channels, and like I said before, our online directory that we have so that people can search and find each other. We've also used the Youth Collective to kind of grow the visibility of individual organisations and bring them into research and analysis that helps just put onto the map what young people around the world are facing. So our commitment to youth leadership at Restless Development is very much mirrored by Democracy Moves, a global youth-led movement that's connected to the Youth Collective. And Democracy Moves really focuses on supporting young people to innovate, organise, and lead democratic action, and ensure that young people can influence decision makers and hold power to account, no matter what the circumstances. And all those things that we would want to do if we were president for the day, we're just so interested to make sure that young people are holding the real leaders to account. This work is so critical at the moment as Africa prepares for a crucial electoral year this year in 2025 with Tanzania, Malawi, Gabon, Togo, Cote d'Ivoire. So many countries are headed to the polls this year. And we're seeing such a quickly shifting political landscape that's forming and changing through civic movements, digital activism, and a growing demand for inclusive governance. So this Leadership Lab today is really important. It's really timely. It's the chance for us to kind of dig into some of these topics. We had so much interest in this when we started advertising this session. And today it's really about uniting you all as Youth Collective members and democracy champions from across the continent to elevate youth voices, counter threats to democracy, and explore how elections are shaping governance. So today we're offering a space to reflect on how we can all play an active and constructive role in the election processes, in promoting transparency and civic engagement and inclusion, and to really make sure that young people are not just consulted in all of these processes, but are really leading. And we want to drive that long-term intergenerational change that really represents and serves all of us. So I really hope that you enjoyed the discussions today, that you participate actively, and that you feel the solidarity of being part of the Youth Collective and part of this period of time together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Natalie, for your presentation and for your comments. It's quite interesting, to hear the Restless turns 40. I am amazed, and I think most of us are, and that 10 million young leaders have passed through the doors of the organization since 1986. This is amazing, a great impact, that require a huge applause and recognition. And indeed, the Democracy Moves is a testimony, a movement building efforts from the support of Restless Development by pushing, democracy and change globally. Really interesting, and thumbs up for the support, throughout. It's time to listen to our esteemed speakers. We have amazing speakers with a lot of huge influence, and people who've experienced, who worked with youth and for youth, in different capacities in different organizations. So it is my pleasure to, introduce, Dr. Hangala Saishiwena, who is a postdoctoral researcher, Institute for Democracy, Citizenship and Public Policy in Africa at the University of Cape Town. So Dr. Hangala will take us through an overview of the current landscape in Africa when it comes to participation of young people in the electoral processes. Over to you, Dr.
All right, thank you very much, Daniel, and thank you for the opportunity to share on the landscape of youth and elections in Africa. Let me just begin by referring to data provided by the Afrobarometer Network. I'm not sure if many people would be familiar with the Afrobarometer, but they conduct public opinion polling on issues to do with democracy and development for 40 or more African countries. And in 2021, between 2021 and 2023, they had conducted surveys in 39 African countries. And one major highlight that came out from the data that they collected was that African youth generally prefer democracy to any kind of authoritarian regime like military rule, but they're also generally dissatisfied with the way democracy works. And one implication of that dissatisfaction is that they end up not participating in election, for example. So in South Africa, in May 2024, a national election was held, and even though the population aged between 20 to 39 make up 33% of the national population, it only made up 41% of those who registered to vote. By contrast, those who are age 40 and above make up 31% of the population, but they voted in a larger proportion. But I would like to just bring attention to elections generally. What are the benefits of elections and what are the negatives about it? So on the one hand, elections are good because they help to promote legitimacy. So they help to build democratic institutions like electoral commission. They also encourage civic participation. And at the same time, elections help to bring development issues to the fore. So they allow the politicians and the voters to talk to each other about what really matters in that country. But on the flip side of it, elections can also become a platform for authoritarian rulers to legitimize their rule. So they can say, look, I'm legitimately in power because I won 80% of the vote, even though they may have won that by manipulating elections, they may have won that by capturing state institutions. And when that happens, it leads to civic disillusionment, where people no longer want to vote. And from a development point of view, elections can also create a dynamic where politicians implement short-term populist programs because they're trying to win the next election without actually thinking about long-term development strategies. So I move on to the next slide. Yeah, so this interesting report that the Afrobarometer produced, and this is available online, which talked about how Africa's youth are more educated, but they also are less employed and basically unheard of in the policy and development space. So the implication is that even though Africans are more educated, I mean, people aged 18 to 35 are more educated than those who are above the age of 35, they are generally less likely to be in meaningful employment. And we can move on to the next slide. Yeah, so unemployment is a huge problem among Africa's youth. And Africa's youth generally argue that governments are doing very poorly. So only about 20%, 19%, in fact, they across the African continent believe that national governments are doing well in job creation. And at the same time, they are becoming increasingly disillusioned about the way democracy works, probably because they are not seeing a general benefit to themselves. But another worrying trend is that, well, I might call it worrying, maybe other people might have a different view, is that there's a belief that if military takeover can help to curb the abuse of power, then more than half of the youth on the continent would even rather have a military takeover if that will help to address bad leadership. So, like I indicated, this also had implications for whether youth want to participate in political events, in community meetings, and the report showed that youth are generally less likely to participate in any kind of civic mobilization than people slightly older than them. The next slide. So just in terms of some brief conclusion, it seems that we're at a juncture where there are two polar positions. One is, do the youth engage in voter apathy, where they stay away from voting altogether, or do they encourage each other to register to vote? Secondly, given the disillusionment with both democracy and unemployment, is the correct way to proceed to abstain from the political process or to actually engage more and participate more? I'll end by giving two brief examples from Zambia. So in the 2021 election, one of the factors that actually helped what was then the opposition party to get into power was a large voter turnout, particularly in the areas where the opposition party had a lot of support. And the implication of this finding is that there is some relationship between large voter turnout and being able to make some political change. But at the same time, one other important dynamic that came out of this Zambian election was a lot of young people started participating at the local level, getting into office at local government councillors. And that's a level where you have some ability to contribute to basic service delivery and to also learn how the governance system works and what can be done at the community level. So I'll end there, given that I only had 5 minutes. Thank you very much, Daniel, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ngala, for sharing an overview of youth participation in electoral process and for specific example. And thank you for even exploring that there is indeed the benefits of participation, of youth participating in election. Thank you very much for, for that particular insight. I will now turn to Brenda, Brenda Namwonge. Brenda is a monitoring and evaluation research specialist at Space Uganda, who will share the best practices of how they have been involving young people in the electoral processes. Brenda, please take it over. And between 3 to 4 minutes, kindly. The floor is yours.
Hey, thank you very much. As introduced, my name is Brenda and I'm from Kampala, Uganda. Uganda is not so different from the different African countries. We have a very young population, 22.7% of the population are youth. And youth particularly constitute 41% of the electorate in Uganda. But from 2016, the voter turnout has been on a decline, and it is projected that the voter turnout is still going to decrease in the upcoming 2026 elections. Next slide. Young people generally participate in elections as voters, they participate as candidates, they participate as campaign agents, but also as election observers, and they face various challenges. One of the challenges that they face is youth instrumentalization, which is basically a point in time where young people are used by different political candidates to achieve their own interests, and this includes young people being bribed to vote for specific candidates or being paid money to participate in election violence, all in one, hindering their effective participation in elections. The digital divide and information gaps. Young people generally do not have enough access to voter education. A recent research conducted showed that only 18% of young people have ever got voter education, and that is something to worry about. Voter apathy, like the previous speaker was actually saying, young people have lost interest. They have lost the trust, but also they opt to participate in the electoral processes, and they choose not to participate generally. Monetization of elections, which is generally the high cost of running elections, which most young people cannot afford. Now, our interventions, we have a number of interventions, but I'm going to speak to mainly four. One is the National Youth Manifesto. The manifesto is basically a policy document that has the policy asks or the policy priorities of young people. As civil society organizations, we realized that there was no policy document that the government had reference to know what young people actually need. So different organizations came together to consult young people, and we came up with a National Youth Manifesto that basically adds key policy priorities for young people. And the change that we have been able to see is that some of the policy issues, the government has been able to allocate budgets or finances in the national budgets to address some of the issues in the National Youth Manifesto. We've also seen a number of legislations that have been passed in favor of some of the policy priorities in the manifesto, but also the government has gone ahead to include some of the youth priorities in the national development plans, which are now constantly reported on in the State of the Youth report that is being produced annually. Basically, I can say the manifesto is simply a social contract between the government, the young people, and the civil society organizations. Then we have the Ready to Stand project, which is a support project for youth, for young people that want to stand for different political positions. So we support them with information, we support them, we train them on how to campaign. We also train them on how to create their own manifestos that they present to young people. And the change that we've seen is that the document, the project, we've been able to train over 300 youth aspirants, but also they've been able to advance in their different political aspirations. Research as a continent, we've been blamed for or criticized for not making data-driven decisions. So we've conducted a number of research studies to understand how young people participate in the electoral processes, but also to come up with tailored solutions for young people. Partnerships, we do not just make recommendations to the government, but we also partnering with the government through being accredited by the Electoral Commission to conduct voter education. And in conclusion, yes, our initiatives have been able to bridge the gap. They've given a voice to young people and they've empowered them to become the leaders that Uganda needs. To the organizations and the donors in the room, I believe that with the right support, young people have the power to shape the world that we have always envisioned. And to the young people, we've always been told that we are the leaders of tomorrow, no matter what corner of Africa you're coming from. The future is now and it's ours to shape, so let's own it. Thank you very much. I remain Brenda.
The thumbs up for Brenda. Thank you very much. And congratulations for the work that you're doing on the National Youth Manifesto, just increasing the space for documented participation and the impact that it has done. Thank you very much. We are moving to the third speaker, who is going to speak in French, Linda Stallon Mapenda. Colleagues, I hope that right now our translation rooms are working and that depending on the language that you preferred, and the translators, who are, keeping us in track. So there's a direction that we've been given, and an advice we've been given at the screen. So for English, please choose English channel. For French, those who are speaking, please also choose French. I believe that is it. So click on the interpretation button that is shown there, and then you choose the translation rooms that best suits you. Without much ado, Linda Stallon Mapenda, a member of Democracy Moves, for nearly 3 years. She's actively engaged in promotion of engagement of leadership, and she has done a lot of work through the radio and through an activism. She will be sharing on youth participation on previous elections in Gabon. Kindly take it over, Linda. And you have 3 minutes.
Bonjour à tous. Je ne sais pas si vous m'écoutez. Je tiens à remercier toutes les personnes qui nous ont permis d'être ici. Alors, donc, nous allons simplement parler. Voilà, donc aujourd'hui, nous allons parler de la politique, mais plus précisément du contexte gabonais. Donc, ce qu'il faut comprendre, c'est que nous sommes en ce moment en train de préparer des élections. Voilà, donc, et ces élections vont simplement concerner les législatives, les départementales et...
Linda,
Comme vous
continue.
le savez, les défis que nous rencontrons aujourd'hui par rapport à ces élections, c'est bien évidemment le découpage électoral, les listes électorales et le financement des campagnes. Donc, c'est un enjeu important parce que il faut dire que beaucoup de conditions sont anarchiques et certains candidats n'ont pas la possibilité d'avoir tellement de moyens pour pouvoir joindre les deux bouts. Un autre défi est également humain, matériel et financier, il faut le préciser. Car il faut donner le meilleur de soi-même en peu de temps. Et il faut être à la pointe de l'information. Donc, et comme on l'a dit tout à l'heure, les calendriers sont très proches. Donc, il n'y a pas beaucoup de temps pour battre campagne, pour se présenter aux populations. Donc, c'est 10 jours et c'est trop serré. Compte tenu de toutes les élections qui se passent en même temps, comme on l'a dit, les législatives, c'est- voilà. Donc, nous, notre intervention en tant que jeunes, comme on le dit bien, la politique, c'est de chercher des moyens qui permettent de résoudre des besoins. Et pour résoudre ces besoins, il faut que le peuple se lève. Et qui dit peuple dit aussi les jeunes. Et pour élire. Donc, nous, notre participation à ce niveau, c'est simplement de pouvoir informer les populations, encourager les candidats, rendre les informations fluides, parce que cela permet effectivement que les listes, donc les gens puissent se retrouver facilement dans les listes, et nous utilisons les réseaux sociaux, la radio et autres. Euh,
Hi, Daniel. This is
All
Prim
right,
here
all
from
right.
Restless. We can't
Sorry
hear,
about the
we
apologies,
can't
apologies.
hear
Yeah,
Linda.
apologies
Yeah.
about that. That is what. Apologies for that. Would we take less than a minute to Sailendra? Would Linda be moved to French translation room?
And
Because I think
Constantine, if you could tell Linda in French to move to the translation room, to the French translation room, so that when you translate, we can hear her in the English channel.
Allô?
Une minute, s'il vous plaît, Linda. We want to fix the translation because people
Je ne vous écoute
can't
pas, vous
hear
dites?
you. We. Constantine, would you want to share that instruction with Linda to move to the French channel, please?
Je pense
Yeah,
sur
maybe
la
we
chaîne
can.
en français.
Maybe we can move on to Freddie, Daniel, as we sort out that and come back to
okay.
Linda.
All right. As Linda sorts that. Okay.
Ah,
Constantine,
d'accord. Non, mais en fait,
because of
moi, je suis sur la chaîne française, hein. Je suis au français, là. Oui, donc ça
Okay.
veut dire que je pense que
all
vous
right.
devez traduire en
So it's the
anglais.
English people that need to go to the French channel to hear Constantine, I think, Daniel. That's what
Moi,
Silendra
je
is saying
suis
in
sur
the
la
chat.
chaîne en français.
We would need to figure that out. But let's, because of time, can we come to Linda if that will be sorted? Because of time. Merci beaucoup. Linda, we will just come back. We are just trying to sort the translation so that everyone benefits from your very wonderful, insightful conversation. As we sort that, may I move to the next speaker, right?
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, so just get ready with your presentation. We are coming back to it once you are sorted on the trip because there are people who want to hear it. So may I welcome Fred Ntei, Youth and Voice and Governance, Voice and Youth Governance Officer restless development in Tanzania. So Fred will be speaking around, youth collective movements as a diverse, vibrant reflection of young people change across Africa and the work they have been doing in Gabon and many other West African countries. So yeah, so let's, because of time, let's shift to and listen to Fred Mte as well. Fred, please have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Daniel. I'm very proud to be here and honored. I'll speak on our political issues, especially towards the election year. As you know, in this year, 29th of October, we'll be conducting our general election, but we'll take on the perspective of young people. In our country, we are almost 60 million, of which 35% is consisting of young people aged 15 to 35 years, but they are actively engaged in making that the population of 60% in the labor force. And in this aspect, we have some few challenges hindering them, especially in representation and decision-making bodies of which they should be actively engaged. But we've seen that they are lowly and minimally engaged in civic space due to some challenges like lack of trust. They lack trust and entrustment from decision makers and from majority of the community people they are coming from. But there is also a problem of corruption towards election. Sometimes they tend to have corruption which hinder their participation in election. But another challenge is that we have low participation of young people, especially in political spaces, in decision-making bodies. This is caused by low political appetite, as I've heard from Ghana, from South Africa and Uganda. We are also facing the same challenge. But moving forward to the next slide, we've come to have some interventions. We've done some interventions with young people we've worked with, especially with Restless development. We have established some platforms of where currently we have secured some permits from the Independent Electoral Commission of Tanzania, of where we are partnering with Embassy of Switzerland and other civil society to deliver voters education, but also civic education, which make young people to fully participate. In our country, as you know, that this year we are having general election, but we conducted another election last year, end of last year, which was grassroots election. We normally do conduct 2 elections. For the grassroots, where we elect the street and the village leaders. But currently we'll be having election where we'll elect the president, members of parliaments and councillors. And for that, for the last year, we empowered 31 young people who did the voters education very well. And this year, we are expected to recruit. We are in a recruitment process of recruiting new young leaders who will be delivering voters education and civic education towards the election. Moving on the other slide, we have, please move on the next slide. So we normally use a different intervention to bring our change. Currently, we've been using media, of where we've been using it in a youth-friendly way to make sure that we motivate young people who are lacking political appetite and who are not interested to involve themselves in political issues and election issues. So we normally do like comics, we normally do like campaigns, we normally do things like radio engagements, of where we use these medias to influence young people. We use interaction in the social medias, and we use some big medias like BBC Media Action to support our actions. And by doing that, for last year, we've reached more than 5,378 young voters with the voters education using our that one trained young people, but also approximately 2.4 million listeners from the community radios in their communities. And this has strengthened our efforts, but also have strengthened the civil society efforts in making sure that the voices of young people are heard in the election. And to conclude my presentation, I can say that our efforts have been actually moving, and we've got some successes. Previously, last week, we had a presidential speech of where she has stressed that this year, the government wants to see more young people participating in voting, but also as candidates in the election. And they want to see a government which is having a majority of young people in the election. And we trust that will happen. So we hope that will happen. But also we can say that when young people are trusted and equipped and included in the process, they don't just participate in democracy, but they redefine the democracy. We've seen that for the young people who have been successfully trained with this civic education and got power, they've redefined the democracy. I end my presentation there, but also I welcome you to this leadership app. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fred. Quite an impact you have done in your project, that has been nurturing young people in Tanzania and hosting town hall meetings, and indeed using, different avenues and tools to ensure that young people are meaningfully engaged through civic participation and engagement. Quite a lesson to learn. Thank you very much, for sharing. And I hope we inspired. Please even stay so that we would engage you in the breakout sessions. I know others would also want to, hear your presentation. Allow me, colleagues, to introduce Alinaswe Lusengo. Alinaswe. Alinaswe Lusengo is a freelance journalist from South Africa and has played a very critical role in shaping democratic processes, especially during elections. So in this session, we'll hear from you for some insights that you will share your experience in mobilizing grassroots youth to participate in youth elections in Africa. Please take the floor and over to you.
Thanks so much. So hi, everyone. So I work as a political journalist. I've written for publications like the Daily Maverick, but I've also done some political communications work. And last year I assisted a political party in their campaigning leading towards the 2024 elections, which were quite monumental elections here in South Africa, namely because the ANC lost their parliamentary majority for the first time since the end of apartheid in 1994, receiving only 40% of the vote. So since no party got an outright majority, the ANC with other parties agreed to form a government of national unity, otherwise known as the GNU, with Cyril Ramaphosa being re-elected president of South Africa. Importantly, it was also the lowest voter turnout that South Africa's had in their democratic history, with only 58% of the country's registered voters showing up to mark their ballot. So what does this mean for young people? Whilst it's difficult to find exact statistics about how young people voted, the results we've gone over tell us two things. Number one, a low voter turnout means that many young people did not show up to cast their ballot. And number two, those that did were seeking political alternatives to the ANC's historic dominance. So young people in South Africa are facing a triple challenge of unemployment, inequality, and social exclusion, which are leading the youth to withdraw from the electoral process. And whilst traditional forms of engagement are declining, I really want to argue that I don't think young people are becoming apathetic or completely disengaging from politics. I believe that they are instead choosing to express their political desires through other methods like protest politics or through the internet and social media. Political disillusionment and mistrust towards existing institutions is also very real, and many young South Africans perceive politicians as disconnected from their realities, which is further driving democratic disengagement. So with this in mind, I wanted to share a youth-led initiative that I was a part of to engage young people in electoral and democratic processes. we hosted various citizens' assemblies to make a practice out of participatory democracy. At these assemblies, we hosted dialogues with various communities centered around topics such as food security, safety, employment, water and sanitation, to hear what each community needed in each area. And based on what these communities shared with us, we shaped policy that could be later advocated for in Parliament. So we specifically hosted assemblies and town halls for youth, led by the youth, where we would have young people lead panel discussions and engage with other young attendees to come up with solutions and further the dialogue. So as a practical example, many young people spoke to us about needing space to get employable skills. So then, as part of an economic policy plan that we drafted, we included a plan to scale existing skills training programs to provide a target of more than 1 million jobs in collaboration with South Africa's National Youth Service. So on an individual level, these assemblies were important in empowering young people, making them feel heard, but also giving them a platform to directly participate in a democratic space. For the collective, it allowed young people's voices to be valued when it comes to policymaking. And from a systemic perspective, the party I worked for got their first few seats in Parliament and are now working towards bringing this policy into being and into action. So for the young people attending this Youth Leadership Lab today, I really want us to think about what we can do to create spaces like assemblies and town halls where we can organize ourselves and participate in democratic spaces. It doesn't even have to be in person. We can and we should make use of these social media and abundant virtual spaces that we have at our disposal. And for donors, perhaps we can think more about what we can do to support young people in not only creating, but sustaining these spaces. I really do believe that youth participation in democracy is vital for our whole continent's development. We as Africa are the youngest continent in the world, and if our youth can be actively involved in shaping our nations, we can shape our planet's future. Thank you so much.
Lusengo, thank you. Thank you very much. Quite inspired by what you've been doing to organize citizen assemblies and encourage dialogues on various topics that would find their way through legislation. Thank you for the encouragement and the insight that you have to give and donors have to consider in supporting young people. Thank you very much. The team, you realize we interrupted a little bit Linda because of the translation. And now we are going to give Linda an opportunity, to speak to us again. And sorry for the interruption that was there before. She is a member of Democracy Moves for 3 years nearly and very active in promoting youth engagement. And she does that through activism on radio. And she's going to share experience on how youth participation in the elections has been happening in Gabon. Linda Stallon Mapenda, please take the stand and it's over to you. Go ahead.
And also, sorry, Daniel,
Bonjour,
Constantine,
je suis Linda
if
Stallon
Constantine could
Mapenda.
move to the French
Donc, je suis
channel,
membre
to the
de
English channel. Sorry.
Democratic Moves, journaliste également radio et responsable.
Yeah, sorry, Linda.
Oui,
I
allô?
was just saying Constantine needs to move to the English
Quoi, il ne
channel
vous écoute
for
pas?
everyone to hear him. Yeah. Constantine, if you can hear me, please move to the English channel now so that everyone can hear you. We could hear you speaking in English, but you're in the French channel, but you need to move to the English channel now for us to hear you. So that's for Constantine. On continue, Linda. Merci.
Vous avez compris? S'il vous plaît, le traducteur, vous
Yes,
appelez
we can
comment?
hear you.
C'est bon?
Please go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
OK. Alors, donc, je disais que je suis Linda Stallon
Yes.
Mapenda Ifunji. Je suis un membre de Democratic Moves situé au Gabon, en Afrique centrale. Et je suis également, comment on va dire, journaliste radio et responsable des ressources humaines. Donc, aujourd'hui, je souhaiterais qu'on parle du contexte électoral gabonais. Donc, en ce moment, nous sommes en train de préparer les élections législatives, départementales et municipales, donc qui sont fixées au 27 septembre 2025, après les présidentielles qui ont eu lieu en avril dernier. Donc, les défis que nous avons, surtout pour les personnes qui sont candidates, c'est surtout les découpages des électorales, les listes électorales, le financement des campagnes et les enjeux, d'autres enjeux. Parce qu'il faut dire que toutes ces élections se passent au même moment, donc aux mêmes dates. Donc, pouvoir découper les listes, savoir qui va voter qui va, c'est un peu compliqué. Donc, d'autres défis restent également humains, surtout financiers, parce que il faut avoir, comment on appelle, un budget pour pouvoir se déplacer, pour pouvoir battre campagne. Franchement, pour les candidats, ça reste un peu difficile. Il faut être à la pointe de l'information, il faut pouvoir faire suivre ces informations. Tous ces défis sont tellement difficiles à relever pour beaucoup de candidats. Et comme on l'a dit, ce sont des élections qui se passent dans la même période. Donc, comment on va dire, le 27, il y a le premier tour et le second tour se passera le 11. Donc, pour les départementales, également les législatives et autres. Et il y a 10 jours où les candidats vont battre campagne. Donc, pendant ces 10 jours, c'est difficile. Il faut faire le tour pour pouvoir communiquer avec les populations, pour pouvoir présenter également leur plan d'action, présenter également leurs projets socio-économiques. Ça reste du temps fou. Par rapport en ce qui concerne notre intervention, donc on va passer à nos interventions. Notre intervention se situe au niveau de la retransmission des programmes calendaires. Donc, il faudrait que tout le monde soit au courant de la période électorale et les gens sachent à quel moment il faut battre campagne. Informer également les populations. Donc, c'est ce que nous faisons en tant que médias. On le fait sur les réseaux sociaux, pour notre part sur la radio. Il faut également programmer des mouvements de sensibilisation. Donc, sensibiliser les populations, sensibiliser les jeunes au sujet de quel candidat voter en mettant bien évidemment un accent sur la corruption. Il ne faut pas que les gens se laissent corrompre par rapport à ces élections parce que nous avons besoin de voter pour des candidats qui viennent changer les choses. Aujourd'hui, comme on l'a dit, la politique, c'est pouvoir trouver des moyens pour répondre aux besoins des populations, besoins sociaux, besoins en termes de santé, en termes d'éducation et autres. Donc, notre intervention, c'est la sensibilisation des jeunes à voter des candidats par rapport aux projets qui sont proposés et non à l'argent qu'on leur donne et tout, interpeller les consciences. Et cela, on le fait au niveau des jeunes et au niveau des femmes. Donc, on va dans les rues et parler un peu plus fort au niveau des WhatsApp, des Instagram et des autres réseaux sociaux. Nous allons également pour encourager les candidats parce que ce sont des personnes, des mêmes jeunes qui sont dans des entreprises avec nous, qui se disent, ils veulent aussi changer les choses, être devant, ne pas laisser tout se décider par, on va dire, les adultes. Non, en tant que jeunes, on a notre mot à dire. Les changements que nous avons pu observer, déjà, c'est au niveau de la transparence. Depuis les présidentielles, je vais prendre le cas du dépouillement des urnes, qui se fait désormais en public. Donc, avant, qu'est-ce qui se passait? Après les élections, donc les bureaux de vote, on transportait comment on appelle, les urnes vers d'autres lieux. Maintenant, on a suspendu cela. Si vous avez voté à un endroit A, le dépouillement de ces urnes-là se fera à un endroit A devant le public. Donc, avec les yeux observateurs, les journalistes et autres, pour pouvoir effectivement juger comment on appelle, la véracité des résultats. Donc, il y a également la fluidité dans les informations. Les gens ont les bonnes informations au bon moment. Avant, c'était un peu les dessous. Les dessous, on ne savait pas qu'est-ce qui se passait où, mais aujourd'hui, il y a la fluidité au niveau des informations. Et c'est aussi une période où il y avait beaucoup de crimes rituels. Quand on préparait les élections, vraiment, les faits divers allaient sans pareil. On découvrait des cadavres découpés, des rituels ici et là, mais pour cette fois, tout semble être calme. Il y a un meilleur dialogue par rapport aux candidats, également par rapport aux partis politiques. Euh, Qu'est-ce que j'aimerais ajouter en conclusion? Donc, notre point d'honneur est de dire aux gens de ne pas voter pour des amis, de ne pas voter pour la famille, de ne pas voter pour les partenaires, de ne pas voter pour l'argent, mais pour voter pour la justice. C'est-à-dire des causes qu'on estime être justes et importantes pour pouvoir régler les problèmes des jeunes, régler les problèmes des adultes, des femmes, etc., apporter des solutions. Donc, il faut dire que le paysage électoral gabonais, on va le dire haut et fort, devient de plus en plus serein et plus transparent que par le passé. Donc, nous conseillons aux gens de prier avant de voter et de choisir le candidat par rapport à l'avenir même des jeunes, des femmes, des hommes et de toute la nation gabonaise. Je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Linda. Thank you so much. The word is don't vote. Just trying to pick up the importance of, voting correctly and wisely. Thank you very much, Linda. And despite that interruption that was there before, thank you very much for, telling us what you're doing with social media and your space in radio to expand, your civic space and, democratic space in Gabon. To all speakers, we are grateful. We would like to thank you and extend our thanks to you through powerful examples you guys have shared. And it's clear now that members of the African Youth Collective are actively engaged in the electoral processes. We've had a lot of examples, from Youth Manifesto in Uganda, using the social media for young people in Gabon, a flagship youth research, and accountability models, amplifying voices and strengthening, their agency, to nurturing young people's groups in Tanzania and hosting town hall meetings in South Africa. Each of these initiatives indeed is a testament to the fact that young people's agency in supporting, are supported and they can become unstoppable, forces for change. Now we'd love to hear from you, dear participants. You've been quiet, but it's good to hear from you because your experiences and your insights matter too. We invite you to join one of the breakout sessions and share your recommendations as well. If we have, group out sessions, so we'll have one for French that is distinctly French because of the unique nature of languages that we are having here. And for everyone who speaks in English, please, you will be required to choose from a list that we will now provide through our tech in the screens so that you choose which particular breakout session you want to join based on the topic that is good for you. Yes, so it is here. You can join the one that you'd want and take not between 5 to 20 minutes. Please do not expand, and then we'll reconvene back for a feedback session. See you then back in the main plenary after 20 minutes. Thank you.
So if you are still in the main room, please join one group. So if you scroll down, the rooms have opened. If you scroll down, you will see the group options. So just go there and pick a group that you want to join. That's how you join the breakout rooms. So if you haven't joined the breakout room, if you scroll down after the names, there are all the groups. You can go there and select the group that you want to be part of and join the discussion there. Si vous avez parlé français, si vous avez français, s'il vous plaît, rejoignez le groupe français. Il y a un groupe français. Vous pourrez rejoindre le groupe français si vous parlez français. Merci. Only the English-speaking people, please don't join the French group. You need to pick a group that you want to be part of.
Hi, sorry.
Wait.
I'm trying to get into a group and I don't see how I can get in.
You need to scroll down. I'm sure you see the groups open and where it's written
Oh, okay. Breakout
unassigned.
room. Okay,
Scroll
beautiful.
down, the groups are right down. And if some people could go to the AI and tech group, that would be fantastic because
Okay.
we've got fewer people there. Yeah.
Okay.
Bonjour, Amadou. Si vous parlez français, vous avez rejoint le groupe français. Aussi, si vous faites défiler vers le bas, vous verrez le groupe français après la liste des noms. Parlez, s'il vous plaît, si vous en question. Adonis Westlingoy, can you hear me? Merci. Hello, Sailendra. Hello, Constantine. Hello. Hello, salut, Silvere. Bonjour. Hello, Alfred. Are you facing challenges to join one of the groups?
Hello, colleague. We are holding on for the rest to join us. Prim, can you hear me? Please confirm if you can hear me. Stable. Great.